Hi folks, welcome to another episode of My Life with Robert Burns. Jim Thompson and Douglas McKenzie here again to talk to another of our cronies from around the bird world. Hi Jim, how are you getting on?
Douglas, I'm doing absolutely great. I had a great day with the Grandwains today, went to Pings, spent a fortune and ate a load of rubbish. But it's been a good day.
Excellent, excellent. Tonight, folks, we're joined by another Wheel Kent face from around the Burn circuit. Cronies everywhere. Please welcome Rob Walker.
Hello Douglas, hello Jim, how are you?
Not bad at all, thanks Rob.
Good.
Rob, if you've seen some of these podcasts, you'll know that the first question we always ask is something along the lines of, Rob Walker, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, first of all, my father was born in Kilmarnock. My mother comes from Maidens, and they had my sister Gwen, and then they had me. So, went to Annanhill Primary School, where I wasn't that fussed for it. And I went to the Grange Academy afterwards, where I wasn't that fussed for that either. So I left as soon as I could, and I trained to be a barber. So I started off my working career up in Gerrards in London Road under the watchful eye of Willie Phillips. And if Willie ever gets a chance to see this, he'll realise that when I started in, he'd a hair like a lion's mane, and when I left, it was kind of something similar to my own. But anyway, I worked there for 23 years, and then I left and I went to work for Alec and Evelyn Kerr at Studio K's, where I still work, but now trade under the name SK's Barbers. So after COVID, their lease was up. So I thought, well, I'll take it on. So that's where we were. So coming out of the lockdown we had in 2021, I found myself having to shell out a few pounds to keep this lease going, which I'd taken on. And that's been it ever since. That's where I still work. So that's a short bit about myself.
You'll have seen a lot of changes in barbering over the years.
Well, we still use scissors and we still use clippers and we still trim beards and cut hair. But yes, there's a few things. The way things operate are slightly different now. But mostly it's just much the same as it was. You know, met a few really good, interesting folk through barbering. Some people who are quite Burns orientated, some folk who are involved with other clubs and societies. And, you know, I've always kind of resisted the temptation to join them. I don't know why, but I just have. Maybe not a team player.
I'm quite interested in the barbering because 4 generations of my family were barbers. And as a wee boy, I used to go and watch my grandpa when he was working. And at that time, it was the shaves with the hot towels and such like. And it's interesting to see that kind of thing coming back again.
Certainly in a lot of the Turkish barber shops, they do a lot of shaving and whatnot. We tend to kind of keep it kind of quite streamlined to what we do. For the simple reason that's the thing that there's only 2 of us that work there. Mm-hmm. So we don't have time to footer about with a lot of these things. If I can just go back to the school aspect of life, Douglas. When we were in the primary school, we had a headmistress called Miss Kenyon. She came from Kilwinning, I think. She was very pro-Scottish and very pro-Burns. So we used to get these poems, learn these, and, you know, best reciter will get taken away and they can recite somewhere else, you know. So this type of thing went on, and I really kind of struggled with reading when I was at the school and possibly writing. I was absolutely terrible at English, terrible. So I remember in primary 4, we all get taken into this room. There's an old record player sitting there, and it was a recording of Tam O'Shanter. So we got to listen to this, and then after it, our teacher had the great idea of saying, "Now, children, could you please draw us something that you've heard in this recording?" I can assure you there was no Gaudi paintings or sketches come out of that classroom that day. And some of them, the women would just turn around and say, "That's absolute rubbish, son. You know, please don't go into painting and decorating as a trade afterwards." So that kind of went on. And some of the things that we got through the primary school from this Miss Kenyon prompting it forward, it's quite interesting. But as I said, I just wasn't very good at it. So when it went to the Grange, thankfully we never got that. But what we did get was this horrific thing in my eyes, was to stand up and read from the page, and I hated it.
Yeah.
I wasn't good at it. I struggled with it, really struggled with it. And I was quite glad to see the back of the school. However, I met some interesting folk in Gerrards who were quite Burnsy orientated, and that kind of piqued my interest in it. But as a youngster, I was more into fishing and hill walking and later on climbing. And that kind of tamed my attention and tamed my time for a good number of years.
What kind of fishing did you do?
What's that, sorry?
What kind of fishing did you do?
Sea fishing, beach casting mainly. I'm not a boat person. I like my feet in terra firma, and the firmer the terra, the better, as far as I'm concerned. But that, I done some fly fishing, salmon, sea trout, and then anything I could catch for the sea at all. And again, hill walking, anywhere, Galloways, Monroes, Highlands.
Yeah.
Rock climbing, again, same thing, anywhere. And there was a period in life where every weekend I would have the car parked on a Friday night. We'd go to work on a Saturday, and then I'd drive to the Highlands, meet up with some friends, maybe have a couple of beers, and then Sunday we go and climb something, come back down, sleep in the car, drive home on a Monday, get myself ready for work. And that was life for about a couple of years. So it was a lot of fun. It was knackering, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Met some good folk through that. And again, there was this guy who could say Tam O'Shanter. So this is where it goes back in again. And he could say most of it, but not all of it. So while I would be tying my flies and whatnot in the kitchen, I'd hear my mother and father talking, and they'd be saying, you know, we're doing our family tree. We're getting it back a bit and back a bit and back a bit. So, as I said, my mother came from Maidens, and when she was a wee lassie going to church with my granny, she used to say, our ancestors used to make shoes over there. My mother used to look around at this wee house with a thatched roof on it, Kirkoswald, and go, oh, she must be having. But yet, as this went back down, she got this link back to the Davidsons. So the way she's at it now, she's not got that final link back to which one of the Davidsons it was, but it's definitely Suter Joni's family. So that was very interesting. So this piqued my idea. I'm going to learn this poem, Tam O'Shanter. So excuse me a second. I went down to Bargain Books in Ayr, and I bought Verloman Press collection of Burns poems. Paid a £5 for it. Great. Opened this thing up and went, oh dear God, I couldn't read it. Team, I really struggled. So I just folded it and put it by and left it, forgot about it. And it wasn't until I was about 35 I decided, right, I'm going to do this. So the first poem I learned was Tam O'Shanter, and it was 4 lines a night. You know, when Chapman Billies lead the street and Druthy neighbours meet, and market days are getting late and folk again to tack the gate. And that would be the first night. Second night would be the next 4 lines, but I'd repeat the ones I'd learnt the night before. And this is the way the whole poem went, 10 ages. What I used to do was take the dog for a walk about 10:30 at night, and I'd take it down into Annanhill Park and onto the golf course. So I'd walk in and slip down at the side of the White House, down onto the golf course, and I'd walk, and I'd get to this place, which is what used to be the old third tee. So you'd walk down and play the first hole, then you'd go in to play the second hole and cut through this hedge. It's this massive thing. It's about 10 foot high, the hedge. But they planted these alder trees in a kind of horseshoe round about it. So I would stand in this tee and I would recite Tam O'Shanter. This particular night, it was like pea soup, thick with mist. There's a big moon up. and I slips down onto it. It was eerie as anything, I can assure you. Every horror film I'd ever seen was creeping back in a winner. So I walks to this tee and I'm starting to recite Tam O'Shanter. And here, I just gets to the bit where, and by the thorn aboon the well where Mungo's mother, this dog appeared, size of a small pony. And this voice appears out the mist and says, "For God's sake, could you not give Shakespeare for a change?" Now I thought, what the hell's this? And I've often seen this car sitting parked at a certain part of my walk. Well, this guy must have been out walking his dog over the golf course at the same time. And after about 6 or 7 months of hearing the same thing over and over again, he must have been sick fed up with it.
But could he recite it for you?
I don't know about that. I don't even know if he could recite Shakespeare, but I think he must have thought, we're stuck in a time loop here. So anyway, that was the first poem I learned. And then the second poem I learned was Death in Dr. Hornbook. So as you can get and imagine, as you can see here, I don't take things at the small end of the wedge. I kind of go for the thick end of it. But I started learning Hornbook, and it was different. I could learn a verse a night. But the same thing, I just kept repeating everything I'd learned up to what I'd just learned that night. So these poems certainly stick with me. But this particular evening, I just left Gerrard's and I found myself having more time in my hands. So I decided, right, I'm gonna try and educate myself. Again, taking things the thick end of the wedge. So it started off by reading books very slowly, and then it started to write things very badly. But things started to kind of taper in. You know, the first things I wrote had no punctuation. They were all written in capital letters. And then our Julie says, "Look, why do you not go and take this notebook," it was at the time, a wee kind of digital notebook, and do your typing on that and see how you go on. Well, that was it. That was the gift that kept giving, because that, no more pens, no more scoring lines out, adding things in. I could do it all. I could doctor it all online in front of me. That was a big game changer for me, a real big game changer. So now I started to write these wee bits and pieces out, and they started to get better. They started to get tighter. I bought a book called Writing Poetry by Peter Sampson, Valuable. Learned an awful lot for that. So as I was starting to write these things, and as I was starting to read better, especially from the Burns aspect of it, things like history started to come in. I remember when we got history at the school, and it was boring. You know, listening to these folk droning on about Bannockburn and about God knows whatever else. And I thought, oh, this is awful. I can't wait to go out of here. So, as I said, now that I wanted to learn it, it became a different thing altogether. And I could still hear my history teacher talking about the Black Douglas, Robert the Bruce's right-hand man. And I bought the book. And when I opened it up, I read the first thing about the ransacking of Berwick and Tweed. And I could just hear my old teacher standing there, wasting her breath. But all of a sudden, it wasn't wasting her breath. It was sinking in. And I'm thinking to myself, how am I able to recall this? Because I spent more time looking out the window than what I could remember anything else. So anyway, everything that I started to learn about, I started to research. So when it came to Tam O'Shanter, I could, you know, start to research this. And I'm thinking about this guy, Suitor Johnny. One of the most iconic images of Burns' poetry is Tam O'Shanter and Suitor Johnny sitting with reaming swats that drank divinely at each other's side. And I thought, he's only mentioned in about 4 lines of the poem. In fact, I think he's only mentioned 4 lines of all his poems. So I thought, oh, wow, here we go. So I learned it. And I think it must have been about 2010, 2009, 2010. Round about Boxing Day, there's a chap at the door. So I goes through and answers it. And there's this guy standing, kilt, guitar, one hand, bottle of whiskey in the other. All right, he says. I said, I'm doing fine, how are you? I'm great. I said, who are you? Jimmy Walsh, world's sexiest man, was the answer. So my friend Gavin appears on the scene. How's it going? So we come inside, sit and have a couple of drams. Jimmy's playing his guitar, singing away. So we end up. He says, go and do that thing you done the other night there. I said, all right. So I recited Tam O'Shanter. And Jimmy sat there. He's listening. And he says, you know something? He said, I would really like that for my birthday. When's your birthday? 26th of January. Okay. I'm going to be here. Right, okay. So we ends up going into his house, 26th of January. And I recites Tam O'Shanter. There's some folk there, maybe about 20 folk in the house, a bit of haggis and one and another. So he does this for him. You ken anything else? Ken Dr. Hornbook. So I done that. So that was fine. There's nothing more said about it. The next year, 2011, this phone call comes in November. How would you like to go to Gothenburg, Biggie? Gothenburg? For Jimmy's birthday party. We're going to do a burnt supper for him. It's all right, fair enough. So at this point in time, I had just learned Holy Willie. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to need a night shirt. Where am I going to get a night shirt in Kilmarnock? And then I thought, Gavin Youngs. Went into Gavin Youngs. Do you sell night shirts? Aye. There's one there, so I got it. And then I'd need nightcap. So my friend's girlfriend at the time made this nightcap with a pillowcase, which was blue. Same shade of blue as on my night shirt. Fine. And then I'm thinking to myself, what else do we need here? So the shout comes in January. Right, what we need is, we need haggis. All they've got is 2 big pots of soup. I said, all right, so much haggis we need. Well, there's going to be 80 folk at this party.
So let me interrupt you a minute. Why Gothenburg? Was that where Jimmy lived?
That's where Jimmy lives.
All right, okay.
Okay. So I goes down to Davy McKellar's Butchers. I says to him, Davy, I'm looking for some haggis. Certainly, how much haggis are you looking for? I said, it's to feed 80 folk. I said, I have to take it with me. Right. So how much do you think? I don't know. I'll leave it with you. So this chieftain haggis comes out. It's about 6 pound in weight. It's huge. It's like the Stone of Destiny. And then he says, I'm giving you 9 bars of haggis, which are £4 each. And that should feed you all. Right, okay. So we had that haggis to go with us. We had 9 kilo of cheese. We had 30 or 40 packets of oatcakes. We had tartan table runners. We had tartan napkins. And we had these napkins that had, it's a picture of Burns in the middle, and there's 4 wee verses in each corner. We had all these lamped into cases. Better take a bottle of whiskey with. Whiskey goes in. So these cases get wheeled down to this Edinburgh airport. The lassie says, put them on that scale there. So we put some both on, and she says, a 10 kilo over. What does that mean? She says, it'll cost you £10 per kilo. She says, look, most of this is coming back empty. Right, okay. So we explained what we were doing. She says, take them both off, put them on one at a time. So she put them on, looked to the side, fine, flung it through. Next one on, fine, flung it through. The big Gavin and myself are standing there at Edinburgh Airport, back at 7 in the morning, tartan trousers, shirts, coats, that's it, we're ready to go. So we wander through into this duty free. This lassie says to us, where are you off to? Going to Gothenburg. What for? For a burnt supper. I've got the very thing for you here. But this stuff called Glenlivet Reserve. Do you want to try some? Aye, okay. So she's going like, you going to a burnt supper? Uh-huh. Sip this wee thimble for, you know. She says, I'd love to hear a bit of poetry. So we said, well, we'd love to see a bigger dram in a glass. No bother. So she gave us a better dram, you know. So I sat and done a bit of Tam O'Shanter. So she was tickled pink with this. Just go into that duty-free shop and buy some of that Glenlivet and take it with you. So we did. £35 for one bottle or two for 50. So we bought two. So away we went with these bags laden. So we get on the plane, we're flying over to Gothenburg, and we decide to get some coffee. So I've got this black coffee, Gav's got a coffee with milk and whatever with it. And the wee tub the milk came in, it was all swelled up. The lid was all bubbled up like a tennis ball. And we looked at it, and then we just looked at each other and we thought, oh Christ, the haggis. So we had visions of this chieftain haggis going the same way as this carton. And we were absolutely crapping ourselves when we got the case off. We never looked at it, taking it to this place we were going to. Now, the place in Gothenburg was called the Lad and Lassie. And at one time it was a brothel. It was turned into this pub. So we gets in there, and the lassie's going, now, do you have the haggis with you? Yes, we've got the haggis. Okay, can we see it? So very gingerly, I says, you open it, Gavin. So he opens this thing up, and I'm going like that. So what are we going to do if this is burst? So anyway, we thought we would just wrap it in cling film and try and fold it into the way it should have been. Anyway, we opened up the case, everything was fine. What do we do with it? So we gave her the instructions. Then we set about setting this pub up. So we done all that, all the work, all the tables set up and the whole shooting match, and it was L-shaped. So this particular night that was about to happen, there was three singers. Well, there was two singers. It was Jimmy Walsh and a guy called, Brian O'Connor, who's an Irish boy. And this fella that he played a sort of sound box. So the three of them done a song called The Wild Mountain Time.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Walsh done A Fond Kiss. So this is what was happening. We got the haggis served out, and we addressed the haggis and the whole shooting match. And then it came to doing Tam O'Shanter. And I can assure you, I was quite nervous, to tell you the truth. I went up, done my bit, and there was a fella had just walked in as I'd started this into this pub, his local, a guy called Tam, I can't mind his second name. Anyway, as I started this, he was standing looking at the bar, and he turned round and he just stared, which I found quite, not unnerving, but I was aware of it. You couldn't no see him. He just stood totally still, stared, never moved until I finished. And the first thing he done was a break. The first thing he done, he walked up, grabbed me around the neck, kissed the top of my head. Take in you want out that gantry, I'll pay for it.
Wow.
It was all right, fair enough. So I looked, and there was a bottle of Oban malt. So give us a measure of that, thanks. So he goes, make it a double. And I just heard this thing of saying, that'll be 250 krona, please, right? So that must have cost £25 for a double whiskey, which I was shocked at. So, as I said, that was the start of it. Then there was a few other things, a couple of speeches, Holy Willie's prayer, everything was fine. That night we went out into Gothenburg, into the boulevard. We came about 5 o'clock in the morning. So I was sleeping on one couch, Gavin was sleeping the other. And about 9 o'clock in the morning, we get a dunt for Jimmy. There you go. There's a can of lager each. Open it up. So opens this can of lager up, takes a sip. And Jimmy goes, I've been awake for the past hour and a quarter. He said, my phone has beeped and flashed and dinged. And it's all text messages back about last night. I said, is that right? He said, even folk that weren't there were talking about it. So I'm going like that. So was it a success? Aye. So that was the first supper I done.
Well done. Well, let me start here for a second, because by this time in our podcast, I've usually handed over to Jim to to get you talking about Burns, but you've managed to do that without any prompting. So I'll get Jim to jump in and see if he's got any other questions.
Just if you're learning 4 lines a day, that's 56 days to learn the whole of Tam O'Shanter.
Yep.
Right, that's no particularly long to learn Tam O'Shanter, I've got to tell you.
Right, okay. It took me 6 weeks to learn the Holy Fair. It took me 10 days to learn the Twa Dugs. In 2022, 23rd of March 2022, I tested positive for COVID. So to shut the shop. And I thought, here we go. 10 days isolation. So I thought, what am I going to do? I remember walking back up here, a face mask on. It was, for that day in March, it was unseasonably warm and sunny, I can assure you. So I walked up with the weight of the shoulders, weight of the world on my shoulders. I thought, you know, I'm just a year into this. I've had to shut this shop. I'm going to lose business. What am I going to do? So I get in here. And that season, I'd been talking to a guy called Roger Livingston. Roger had said, look, how do you fancy doing the Twa Dugs together? You can go one dug and I'll go the other. And at that point in time, I wasn't much fuss for the poem. I kind of looked at it and thought, it's not for me. Anyway, I thought, right, okay, that's what we'll do. So I picked the book up and it took me 10 days to learn it. Apart from 2 lines. The loiter lounging, lank and lazy, deal hate ails them yet uneasy. Was the 2 lines that had bothered me out of the whole poem. And I think it must just have been a bit of brain fog or what, I don't know, but that was that. Another one I learned rather quickly was the Epistle to Davy, a brother poet. That took me a week to learn. So again, I had a bit of time in my hands and I put a lot of effort into it. But I had a head start in that one because I learned the 5th verse, which I'd done as a reading, as part of a toast, for my friend's wedding. So again, that kind of gave testimony because he got married in Brigadoon at Alloway. So my toast was about the bridge that you could see from the window. And I used that as the union of marriage, the bridge tying the 2 banks together is, you know, tying the 2 hearts together. And then I finished it with, you know, the epistle, the 5th verse, you know, the hearts aye, the party that marks is right or wrong. And then let's toast the hearts of Gavin and Maria. So that was a kind of head start in the Epistle to Davy. The other thing that came out about it was, I remember walking home, again with the kind of weight of the world on my shoulders, walking past the statue of Burns in Kilmarnock. And looking at it, and I stopped in my tracks and looked at it. And I thought, there's these 2 heads sitting at the feet of Burns, between Burns and John Wilson. So I kind of looked at it and I thought, why has he got wings in his hat? And I went on the other side and I looked at this other head looking in the window of a bright house in Kilmarnock and with a shock of abomination at these things that they're trying to sell to the general public. I mean, it's just cheap tat. And I thought, who are they? Apollo and Hermes. What they're doing up there. So, on later part of my educational tour that I've been doing and self-teaching myself, who is this? So I started to learn about the Greek gods. So it turns out they 2 are half brothers, Hermes and Apollo. So Apollo is also known as Phoebus.
Yep. So
I'm sitting thinking to myself, wait a minute, I've heard this before. Epistle to Davy. There it is, verse 11. As Phoebus in the famous 9 was glowering over my pen. And you think to yourself, so now what Burns is saying here is Apollo, the sun god, in the famous 9. So who's the famous nine? And that's the nine daughters of Zeus. That's the Muses. So this was all becoming an enlightened thing for this wee boy that was born in Alloway, is now bringing the Greek classics to his poetry. This is fantastic, I thought. So I also learned that Hermes was the god that created music, as well as being the messenger and also a cattle thief. This is how Apollo gets drawn to Hermes, because he steals his cattle and eats them. And he strings some of the veins and tendons out of an old tortoise shell. So when Apollo's incensed with anger, he hears this music. He's never heard it before. So when he enters the cave where Hermes is sitting, he's enraged to find that, oh, by the way, this Wayne sat and ate all your cattle, all your prized possessions in the world. He scoffed. So he's going to kill him until he hears this music again. So now the two become quite firm friends. And also, they're half brothers. So I found that very interesting when it came to the Epistle to Davy. It was something that was there right in front of you. Never heard of it, never knew of it, but I went and learnt it for myself. So when I say, that Burns has been an education, for me it certainly has. Because it's taken me in all sorts of ways, through history, through geography, the classics, English literature again, starting to write these things down, writing better, the whole shooting match. So it's not just a case of all the poems or the songs, it's a whole entire education. But it's something that I've wanted to do, not something that some teachers said, try that, learn this, read this. You can't read it, right? Try it again. That's terrible. Sit down, go somewhere else, read that play, read this story, and you think, oh God. Now give me something that I want to read. Quite happy.
Aye, the statue in Kilmarnock, I'll leave you to educate yourself on why both these gods are on the statue and why they're facing the way they're facing. Because it's really interesting, and I think it's a better journey if you learn through your own volition rather than listening to me when I take you a tour of Kilmarnock or whatever. Although Archie's doing it a lot better than I've done it, I've got to say.
Okay.
I was an apprentice of all Harry Bull, and that's how I started. But I mean, I've heard you doing the Holy Fair. No, it wasn't the Holy Fair. The Twa Dogs as a duet before. I mean, and that was with a friend of both of ours. Have you done it with Money People?
I've only done it with Roger Livingston and with Ian Farrell.
Right, just Ian.
I've only done it with those two. And when I done the Twa Dogs with Roger, I done the Collie, I done Lewis, and Roger done Caesar. So then when we went to do the Twa Dogs with Ian that night you're talking about, he says, right, you go the big dog, I'll go the wee dog. And I thought, thank Christ I learnt the whole thing and not just the wee bits in between. So that was that. So it was always fresh in my mind. I could turn it to both. And I thoroughly enjoyed that particular evening you're talking about was the Polis. So I want to try and bring something like the Epistle to Davy to the attention of some of the Burn Suppers, for some you don't hear very often. And I could see in that crowd, when I started doing the Epistle to Davy, straight away, it wasn't a rhyming couplet, it wasn't a standard Harvey, and folk all of a sudden just sat and looked. And that was it. It sounds so different. It appears in some of Alan Ramsey's poetry. He writes in that kind of stanza. And I heard someone say once it was nothing more than chopped up prose shoved together. And I thought, it's much more than that. So much more than that. But there's that many different sentiments within the poem that you can take out. In verse 3, however fortune kicked the boy's eyes and caused to smile. In verse 5, the heart side, the party, the Max is right or wrong. But I think there's a definite sentiment in verse 6. I remember reading a letter once, and it was from Davy Siller to Robert Aitken. He describes how Burns was in the parish of Turbolton for 2 years before he met his acquaintance. When he did meet his acquaintance, it was great to find somebody who was educated. But also with this friendship came salacious fear, because of the way he wore his hair, the way how he wore his clothes. He wrapped himself in a plaid, and he was outspoken. And you think to yourself, that must have been quite a controversial character. However, in verse 6, when he talks about, you know, think ye that sick as you and I, while drudge and drive through wet and dry with ne'er cease and toil, think ye, are we less blessed than they who are scarcely tent us in their ways hardly worth our while? Alas, how often haughty mood God's creatures they oppress, or else neglecting all that is good, they riot in excess, both careless and fearless of either heaven or hell, esteeming and deeming it's all an idle tale. There's something in that, and I like it. And if you see folk, I mean, there's people I see in the street and they look at me. I mean, I look, if I put a suit on, I look like somebody with a heat transplant. Okay, let's not kid ourselves on. However, you walk down the street, folk look at you and they go, you see with your woolly bonnet on and your collar turned up, and they think, oh my God, what we got here. However, all I think to myself is verse 6, just let it go. Verse 6, that's it. Write it off. That's where they are now pigeonholed, in that verse.
Well, the first time I ever heard you, again, Ian Farrell got me to do something for him down at Troon, and you were there, you were doing the readings, and you stood up and did the Holy Fair, and it was one of the best renditions I've ever heard. So you need to do a bit of the Holy Fair, if not all, before you leave here tonight.
Well, Jim, I've been done the Holy Fair for about 3 years or something like that, maybe more. Well, I'll certainly be able to do a few lines from it. What I will say before I do something like that is at Portland Golf Club, the only place you've got to perform if you're the reader is in front of the bar. So you've got about 5 or 6 feet of tiled floor, and it's ceramic tiles. So it's quite a small room. It's quite a tight room. It's quite close to the speaker. And the first night I went there, I had just done 3 Burns suppers. That was my second year in it. So I'd done Dundonald Bowling Club, I'd done Key Park Bowling Club, and I'd done the Irvine Polis down at Girdle Toll. So I thought, that's me by. Great, I can sit back and relax. And then I got this phone call on a Tuesday night. It was me, Roger Livingston. How's it going, Rav? I said, I'm great. Listen, the guy that's doing the readings is called off. Do you think you could stand in for him? I said, where is it? Portland Golf Club in Troon. I said, right, okay, I'll do it. So I started to reheat this Tam O'Shanter and Holy Willie up again. So I went to it. And when I walked in, it was quite daunting because the room was really, really tight, really packed. And there standing at this top table is Bobby McCallum, Willie Stewart, Ian Farrell, and John Shirky. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't Willie Stewart, but I'd heard these names before, and I thought, oh God, here we are. We're in with the big boys now. So when it came for me to do Tam O'Shanter, I got off the top table, and I remember looking when I went in and I seen this tiled floor, and I thought, my brogues have got like heel protectors and toe protectors on them, so I'll sound like Roy Castle trying to do the tap dancing, hanging the record breakers. So I slipped my shoes off, and I walked down there in my socks, and I performed it. And I walked back up, and the first thing I done when I stepped foot onto that tiled flare, I just felt this puddle of beer seeping into my so, I had wet feet, right? So that was fine. I went and done Holy Willie again, same hang again to my nightshirt and the rest of it. Again, this wet feet. So when my wife came to pick me up, got back home, I taken my shoes off. She looked at my socks and she says, Where the hell were you doing? You paddling the night or something? I said, no, that's the situation. However, this year, I may hasten to add, I went to Portland and it's the first night I've come back with dry feet. So they all must have fun their mouth that day. But it was great. It's very tight. And when I was doing the Holy Fair for yourself, after that, Ian had approached me after the night and he said, I've got a couple of dates for you. So, all right. I've got this night in February next year, right? And I've got this night in March next year. I said, right, okay. And he says, we've had a lot of folk here doing readings over the years. He said, there's only 3 folk have done readings twice in the trot. So is that right? Aye, he said, but there's only one done it 3 times in the trot. I said, who's that? You. I thought, right, no pressure. But I've been to Portland, I think that's 5 years in the trot so far, and I'll not miss it. It's a cracking night. It's quite close, it's quite intimate. This year, sorry, I had the pleasure of hearing Jane Brown doing her immortal memory. So Roger and myself done the Twa Dogs, and I done the Epistle to Davy there. So it's a kind of mission of mine to try and take that, as I said, to as many suppers as I can. And a lot of folk have heard it. Jim Fraser heard it earlier on. And I went to do the Scots Guard supper this year in Prestwick. What are you going to do for us? I said, I'm going to do Tam O'Shanter. And before he'd heard me speaking, I said, I'm going to do Tam O'Shanter. Right, okay, that's good. We do Holy Willie. I said, well, I've got something up my sleeve here tonight. Just wait and tell me what you think of that. So I done the Epistle to Davy, and he turned around and he said, just do that one as well. That'll do fine. So that's what I went to the Scots Guards with. So he must have liked it.
How many poems can you do altogether?
I do Tam O'Shanter, the Holy Fair, Holy Willie, Epistle to Davy, Death and Dr. Hornbook, Tea Moose, Address to Haggis, and if I'm really pushed, Westland Winds.
Wow.
And
That's it. And the Twa Dogs, aye. The Twa Dogs.
Tremendous. Well, I agree with Jim. Before we're finished, we need to get you to do the Holy Fair if possible. But you talked about doing your own stuff. Would you be able to share some of your own stuff with us?
Of course. Of course. If you've got a spare 10 minutes and a pair of lugs to listen, I can certainly give you a wee rendition, which has got a kind of Burns theme to it. Now, I'm going to start this out. There might be a bit of potty mouthing in this, but it's not much. It's not mild. I hope that's all right. I'm just checking.
You're fine.
It's a wee thing. It's a wee thing called the Twa Midges.
Right. Perfect.
So whereas Lewis and Caesar are the Twa Dogs, this is the Twa Midges. In one of Scotland's finest isles, north to south about 60 miles, in a quiet flank where deer may prance, treating stokers to a merry dance, where cataracts flow like fountains and sheltered by some fearsome mountains, there lay a loch, centuries old, shining like a vision of Spanish gold and giving life to the hail food chain so hunters and prey merry main, in shoals or herds, plagues or dozes, leaping and a fleeing like the jumping Moses. Here in a drapping met Twa Midges, what'd been blown o'er many ridges. One called Ben, who was merry, the other simply known as Jerry. Ben. Hi ho, neighbour, are you well? The day's going to be hotter than hell, and tell me, have you seen what's on the menu today, and is it far away? Jerry. I have seen it. It's over there, down by the rocks with ginger hair and freckles, man. What a sight. A Sevenstein weakling and pasty white. And then I think a lost dog walker, 2 students and an old deer stalker. was been out in all kinds of weather. His skin will be akin to old bit leather. But for his age, he still looks frisky. We may drink his blood and taste his whiskey, but this can cause a little confusion having a morning after blood transfusion. But I tell you, what I really hate is after drinking that stuff, you can't fly straight. Now, there's a word created for the ginger. It's in the dictionary under minger. He's got acne, so watch where you bite, because spot pus doesn't taste quite right. For there's no cure to the prognosis of pus clogging your proboscis. It means that you'll miss all your meals and you'll ken how starving Marvin feels. But just imagine you'd fun a mate. Without blood, you can't procreate. And no matter if she was in the mood, things wouldn't work just as they should. So thinking of that, it would be wise leaving him to the mercy of other flies. Now, the dog walker looks really simple. There's no a blemish nor a pimple as she walks blissfully unaware like a vision of food with flowing hair. But don't be rushing in so hasty. Although her skin looks so tasty, there's chemical weapons nowadays that will kill you in so many ways, like skin so soft, and that stuff deep. There's their kind that will burn your feet, or rob and choke the life of you, or give you the skittles and make you spew, or rot you from the inside out, leaving just an empty shell, no doubt. Now, the students think they're all alone, picking at rocks and chipping at stones. Look, one of them's wearing a tilly hat, which doesn't suit him, the silly twat. So get ready to dine, we'll hae a bite, and that will serve them bloody right. We'll set about them just like weasels, sending them back like they've caught the measles. We'll drink their blood, we'll be in nirvana, especially if they smoke marijuana. It'd be good to get stoned and find a she-flea that's wanting boned. So let's hope they're open-minded folk, and it's a guy and a girl, not a bloke and a bloke. Ben, bugger me, are you homophobic? I wouldn't have thought that of you. I thought that only flesh would do. Men, women, or wains that are whining. To me, each one is just fine dining. And I'm no fussy and I'll select an unwilling hosting for effect. I'll bite their neck and buzz in their ears, nearly reducing them to tears. And I'm worse at night. In the dark, I've been likened to a flying shark. I'll bite anything and nothing is sacred, for all we've ever been shown is hatred. And if four folk got above their station, see here this act of arbitration. It's what humans really should, is see themselves as tasty food. Now, I've got my good sharp teeth in, and to miss this meal would be a sin. We might even team up with the Clegs. As we bite the neck, they'll bite the legs. And in annoyance, they'll scream and shout, leaving us without a doubt that our host has really and truly been used by winged assassins, totally abused. So let's set about these stained chippers like I went to a portion of chicken dippers. I'll drink their blood and it'll make me happy. I'll treat them like a Wayne treats a nappy. But don't be disgusted, because this will happen, that while I'm eating, I will be clapping. And I see your expression before you're asking. This is what I call multitasking. Now, as the pair prepared for flight, they spread their wings and left the shite and made a beeline for the pair with a buzz buzz here and a buzz buzz there. They joined in with many of others, many of them family, sisters and brothers, fleeing around them and making a noise like Indians circling round cowboys. But here, a pulsing vein, taking fine rich blood up to the brain, became exposed and presented itself to the midges in the host to hell. Without delay, they had a bite, one on the left side and one on the right, and the student just couldn't retard his cries of, "Ah, you bastard." Now, their bites left a mark as red as a berry, but one slap put an end to both Ben and Jerry.
Oh, that was fantastic. Well done.
I've not done that for about 6 years.
Oh, that was excellent. Well, you brought us to the end of near the end of our hour, but I'm sure we've got time for maybe a couple of verses, the whole affair, if you can manage it.
Okay. Upon a summer Sunday morn, when nature's face is fair, I walk forth to view the corn and snuff the collar air. The rising sun o'er Goston moors with glorious light was glinting. The hares were hurpling down the furze, the lavrocks they were chanting, "Fu sweet this day." As lithesomely I gazed abroad to see a scene sae gay, 3 hizzies early in the road came skelping up the way. 2 had mantails a dolphin black, bein with lyre at line, and the third that gaed a weir back was in the fashion shining, fu gay this day. The twa peer like sisters, twin in feature forming clays, their visage withered lang and thin, and sure as ony slays. The third come up, pap stepping loup, as licht as ony lambie, and wi a crouchy loaded stoop, as soon as e'er she saw me, fu kindest day. We bun it off, quoth I, sweet lass, I think ye seem to ken me. And though I've seen that bonny face, but yet I cannae name ye. Then she come laughing as she spak and taks me by the hands. Ye for my sake, ye gien the feck of all the 10 commands, a screed someday. My name is Fun, your crony dear, the closest friend ye hae. And this is superstition here, and that's hypocrisy. I'm going to Mauchline Holy Fair to spend an hour in Daffin. Can you go there, lone runkle pair? We will get famous laughing at them this day. Quoth I, with all my heart I'll do it, and I'll put my Sunday sark on, and meet ye at that holy spot where we'll spend time remarking. Then I gaed hame at crowdy time, and soon I made me ready, for roads were clad from side to side with mony a weary body in droves this day. Here farmers gashing, riding great, gaed hodding by their cotters. Their swankies young in braw-braid claith are springing o'er the gutters. The lassies skelping, barefoot thrang with silks and scarlets glitter, and sweet milk cheese and money a bang, and farrels baked with butter, fu crump this day. Then by the plate we set our nose, weel heaped up with hatems, a greedy glower black bunnet throws, and we men draw our tippins. Then in we go to see the show, and every side are gathering, some carrying chairs, some dales and stools, and some are busy blethering right loud this day. That's me, I'm off my chair of thought.
That's perfect.
Well
Well
done.
done. Well done.
I've just got a lot of work to do for next season, that's all.
What an amazing talent to go for your own poem straight in at the Holy Fair without batting an eye. That was brilliant.
I would just like to say something to you. You mentioned the name Harry Bull.
Yes, all Harry.
Well, Harry Bull used to stay in the corner of Annenhill Avenue.
He did.
So my dog used to be called Harry. So every time we walked by there, I said, "Hello, Harry." The dog's ears would flick up and he'd jump up at the fence. So sometimes if you're talking to him, he would be in a quite a talkative mood if he had time. And I remember him sitting saying to me, I made a comment one day, and he had spoke about the Holy Fair, and I'd said something about the twa herds. And he just said to me, right, the twa herds. And then he started to give me an education in the churches in Kilmarnock. I was there for half an hour. A great guy to talk to, a lovely man.
He was a great guy. He took me under his wing when I first went to Ayrshire Association meetings, and I didn't know much about what I was supposed to be there for. He took me under his wing and looked after me. He was a great guy.
When they started it's like an annual thing with the Ayrshire Association, and it was supposed to be a wee bit, a wee bit more learned. And Harry was doing the tours, and he took me as his apprentice, the tours of Kilmarnock. And I used to walk around there with him, and every time he did it, you learned something else, because there was just that much in his head, and he's sadly missed. But as I say, he was just and he was an absolute genius in Burns, I'm telling you, without hesitation of doubt.
We've got another genius at Burns here. I mean, that was fantastic.
Yes.
So,
I've been quite lucky, Douglas and Jim. I've had some good folk around me, and some folk who've been quite supportive and whatnot. Yourself, Jim, a lot of help, especially this year at Spring Hill. Without your input, it wouldn't have run as like clockwork, I may hasten to add, and it wouldn't have been as good a night. So I've always got an admiration for the chair people. And even before I go to any Burn supper, I got an email from my mother, and she says, best of luck for tonight, and I hope everything goes well. And I'll send her an email back, and it'll more or less be, speakers. The guy that done the Immortal Memory, fantastic. The Toasted Lassie, brilliant. Chairman, kept it running like clockwork, absolutely superb. The singer, great. Piper, brilliant. And she'll go, "What about you?" And I'll say, "Well, I done all right." "Really? Is that it? You done all right?" I said, "Well, they've asked me back, so I must have done something right." But that's it. I'll not say that with myself. I'll speak about other folk.
But that's a natural thing. But see, after last year at Spring Hill, Arthur McCallum talked about you for 2 weeks solid.
Arthur McCallum can talk for 2 weeks solid about anything. But no,
But
again,
well, Rob,
yourself, Jim, you gave me a lot of help, a lot of support. Ian Farrell's been somebody that stood and said, you just keep doing what you're doing, son. Just keep pushing it in there. So he's been very helpful, very supportive. And, you know, I've got a lot of time for him.
brilliant. Well, if other folk thought you did well at these suppers, I think you did very well tonight. I think that was absolutely brilliant. And it really just leaves me to say thanks very much, Rob, for telling us about your life with Robert Burns.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Upon a summer Sunday morn, when nature's face is fair, I walk forth to view the corn and snuff the collar air. The rising sun o'er Goston muirs with glorious light was glinting. The hares were hurtling down the furze, the lavrocks they were chanting, fu sweet this day. As lixomly I gazed abroad to see a scene sae gay, 3 hizzies early in the road came skelping up the way. Twa had mantles o' dolfa black, and yin wi' lyret lining, the third that gaed a weir back was in the fashion shining, fu gay this day. The twa appeared like sisters twin in feature, form and clays, their visage withered lang and thin, and sour as ony slays. The third come up, hap stepping loup as licht as ony lambie, and wi' a crouchy loaded stoop, as soon as there she saw me, fu kind this day. We bun it off, quoth I, sweet lass, I think ye seem to ken me, and though I've seen that bonny face, but yet I cannae name ye. Then she came laughing as she spak and taxed me by the hands. Ye for my sake, ye gien the feck of all the 10 commands I screed some day. My name is Fun, your crony dear, the closest friend ye hae, and this is superstition here, and that's hypocrisy. I'm going to Mauchline Holy Fair to spend an hour in Daffin. Can you go there, lone runcoat pair? We will get famous laughing at them this day. Quoth I, with all my heart I'll do it, and I'll put my Sunday sark on, and meet ye at that holy spot where we'll spend time remarking. Then I gaed hame at crowded time, and soon I made me ready, for roads were clad fae side to side with mony a weary body in droves this day. Here farmers gashing riding great gaed hodding by their cotters, their swankies young in braw-braid claith are springing o'er the gutters. The lassies skelping barefoot thrang with silks and scarlets glitter, and sweet milk cheese and mony a whang and farrels baked with butter, fu crump this day. Then by the plate we set our nose, we'll heaped up with halfpence, a greedy glower black bunnet throws and weemen draw our tippence. Then in we go to see the show, and every side are gathering, some carrying dales, some chairs and stools, and some are busy blethering right loud this day. Here stands a shed to fend the showers and screen our country gentry. There racer Jess and twa three whores are blinking at the entry. There sits a row of tittling jades with heaving breast and bare neck, and there a batch of Wabster lads blackguarding fae Kilmarnock for fun this day. Here some are thinking on their sins and some upon their clays. Yin curses feet that files his shins, another sighs and prays. On this side sits a chosen swatch with screwed up grace-proud faces, and there a set of chaps at watch, aye winking to the lassies to cheers this day. Oh, happy is that man and blessed, nae one o' that at pride him, while his ain dear lass that he likes best comes clinking down aside him. Wi' him reposed upon the chaired back, it sweetly does compose him, which by degrees slips round her neck, and's laughed upon her bosom, unkenned this day. Now all the congregation ere with silent expectation, for Moody spools the holy door with tidings o' damnation. Should horny as in ancient days mang sons o' God present him, the very sight of Moody's face, Dane's hot hame would send him with fright this day. Hear how he clears his points of faith with rattling and thumping, now meekly calm, now wild in wrath he's stamping and he's jumping. His lengthened chin, his upturned snout, his eldritch squeal and gesture, oh how they fire the heart devout like cantharidian plaisters in sick a day. But hark,
The tent has changed its vice, there's peace and rest nae langer. For all the real judges rise, they cannae sit for anger. Smith opens out his cold harangues in practice and in morals, and aft the godly pouring thrangs to gie the jars and barrels a lift this day. What signifies his barren shine or moral powers and reason? His English style and gesture fine are all clean out of season. Like Socrates or Antonine or some old pagan heathen, the moral man he does define, but ne'er a word of faith, and that's right this day. In good time comes the antidote against it poison nostrum. For peoples fae the water fit, ascends the holy rostrum. See up he's got the word of God, and meek and mim has viewed it, while common sense has ta'en the road, and affin up the Coogate fast this day. Wee Miller Niece the guard relieves in orthodoxy rabbles, though in his heart he real believes, but thinks them old wise fables. But faith, the Burkie wants a man, so cannily hums him, although his carnal wit and sense, like halflings wiser comes him at times this day. Now Button Ben the Chinehouse fills with Yule-Cup commentators, here's crying out for bakes and gills, and there the pint-stout claters. With thick and thrang and loud and lang, with logic and with scripture, they raise a din that in the end is like to breed a rupture, o wrath this day. Lees meal and drink, it geeses mair than either school or college. It kindles wit, it wakkens leer, it pangs us full of knowledge. But whisky gill or penny wheat per ony stronger potion, it ne'er fails in drinking deep to kittle up our notion by night and day. The lads and lasses blithely bent to mind both soul and body, sit round the table weel content and steer about the toddy. And this yin's dress, and that yin's luck, they're making observations, while some are cosy in the nuck, aye, forming assignations to meet some day. But now the Lord's ain trumpet touts the law the hills are rearing, and echoes back return the shouts, Black Russell isnae sparing! His piercing words like healing swords divide the joints and marrow. His talk of hell where devils dwell, our very souls does harrow with fright this day. A vast, unbottomed, boundless pit filled full of lone brimstone was raging flame and scorching heat would melt the hardest windstain. The half asleep stare up with fear, they think they hear it roaring, when presently it does appear 'twas but some neighbour snoring asleep this day. 'Twould be our lang a tale to tell how mony stories passed, and how they crowded to the yill when they were all dismissed. How drink gae drowning cogs and cups amang the ferns and benches, and bread and cheese for women's laps was dealt about in lunches and dodds this day. In comes a gauzy gash guidwife and sits down by the fire, sin draws her kebbuck and her knife, the lasses they are shire. The old good men about the grace fae side to side they bother, till some yin by his bunnet lays and gies it like a tether, foot tilt this day. We sucks for him that gets nae lass or lassies that hae nothing. Sma need has he to say a grace or mel wi his braw claithing. O wives, be mindful yinch yoursel how bonny lads you want it, and dinna for a kebbuck heel let lasses be affronted and sick a day. Now clunkum bell wi rattle and tow begins to jow and croon, some swagger hame the best they dow, some wait the afternoon. It slaps the billies halt a blink till lasses strip their shoon, with faith and love and hope and drink, their own famous tune for crack this day. How mony hearts this day converts, o sinners and o lasses, their hearts a stain gin night or gain, as saft as ony flesh is. There's some are full of love divine, there's some are full of brandy, but how mony jobs this day begin, may end in hug my Gandhi some other day.